Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unfucking Your CX. Everyone knows me. I'm your host, Zack Hamilton, but what's most important is who we have in the hot seat today. Alyona is one of those people that has just been running around the same CX circles that I have been, and we've never really had an opportunity to really deeply connect. But it's always someone who I admire for all of her work that she's been doing with brands around the world. So, Alyona, welcome to the hot seat. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Great to be here. I remember first I met you when you were presenting at a conference and you had such a exciting presentation that I ended up writing a blog post about it and sending it to you. Not sure if you remember.
Was that back in Atlanta?
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Okay, I remember that now. I was still at Aaron's for
Yes,
that conference. I'm trying to remember the topic. Do you remember the topic?
chief customer officers and like the mistakes they make, something around.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I had plenty of mistakes that I was talking about because I made a lot of them, but I do remember that now. And I remember reading the write up on it because you do it in doodles, right?
No. I'm a words person.
Words. Okay, then I'm thinking of someone else for the doodles. Alyona, I always like to ask the guest, as we're two colleagues having this conversation, kind of set the scene for us. Like, where is the conversation taking place? Is it in your favorite local coffee shop or cafe? Is it maybe a favorite local pub for a brew? Maybe it's at your favorite restaurant. Like, where are we having the conversation?
Probably a cafe, maybe a wine bar. I live in New Zealand and we have a very quaint little neighborhoods and with views of the ocean. So that's where I tend to meet my colleagues.
I mean, look, can it get any better having a conversation at a little quaint place overlooking the ocean? I don't think so.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. If it's at a wine bar, what's your favorite? Are you more of a red or a white?
It depends on the occasion and the time of the day and the temperature, but I love sparkling wine and I love rosé.
Yeah, very cool. Sparkling. I will say, as much as I continue just to travel over to Europe so much, like I have found myself, I don't like to drink just tap water anymore. Like I always have to have sparkling water.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Alyona, you work a lot with brands, just global brands, big brands, on various different strategies, with CX and insights being one of them, of course. I'm really curious. What is that one topic? I know there's probably many, but what is that one topic that maybe continuously comes up that when you do hear it, it makes you cringe the most?
Yeah, for me, it's when companies underutilize their feedback. So, thematic, my company, we analyze customer feedback that comes from many different channels. Bulk of it is in surveys because this is how we started and this is how majority of CX teams gather their feedback, but also other sources such as call center, transcript, chat conversation, and so on. And the one thing that makes me cringe is when this feedback is being held captive by the CX team or the insights team, saying that the others basically need to be spoon-fed customer insights because they're not capable of interpreting the data themselves or they'll get to the wrong conclusions. And so they need to kind of create this narrative and then feed it back to the business. And I think that research and insights is at a big crossroad at the moment due to AI democratizing everything and especially data analysis. And so as professionals in the space, instead of trying to hold on to how things used to be, now is the time to evolve and learn new skills, learn to democratize feedback, and make sure that feedback doesn't end up in dashboards. It actually, how can we put it to work and how can we move closer to the business outcomes that need to be created from it?
Yeah, I love this particular topic because I'm with you. I've written on this recently though around kind of the one of the biggest lies though in customer experience or insights has been if we just democratize the insights, everyone will know how to leverage them, right? So think of this as like text analytics and your classic kind of models. And what we've seen is they actually don't know how to leverage like text analytics. And ultimately the way that we share the insights, to your point, is they need to shift and they need to change, right? And we need to share the insights with our specific cross-functional team members in a way that it makes sense for their specific business versus here's a one size fits all. Here's the text analytics dashboard. Now, Mrs. E-commerce, you go figure it out. And Mr. Store Ops, you go figure it out. And, Mrs. CMO, you go figure it out. There's got to be a better way, to your point, especially with AI, around how do we make it better, easier, more efficient,
Accessible.
accessible. There you go. Good word. So if you think about kind of this and kind of the way that, before we get to your player tips, why do you think we're just kind of stuck in this like old approach of here's one dashboard, go figure it out? Why do you think many brands haven't pivoted to how you're helping them with making it more accessible?
Well, I think it's fear of change, fear of going against the grain and trying new things, and kind of this inertia
Yeah.
that stops people from changing.
I think that's so spot on, is that fear of change. But what's so interesting is I actually see us as CX leaders, we are actually the activators of change within an organization, right? Because if we are truly advocating for the customer and our customer's behavior changes at such an accelerated pace, if we're truly going to advocate for the customer, then we're like the sellers of change, the influencers of change. And so I'm curious, in your mind, often would you see a CX leader who's frustrated because they can't get their organization to make that change internally, yet aren't willing to change themselves?
We tend to not push when our customers are saying, this is how we are doing things. And I feel like it's not our place. We're a technology vendor provider. We try to share case studies. This is how some of our best customers do it, the most successful customers. So we've been working for over 5 years with DoorDash, and everybody has seen just how they've grown, right? And they put all of this feedback. It's highly democratized. They just check it into a document and start tagging everybody in the organization. What are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? In addition to reports and this focus on customer feedback and believing when people say, when Dashers say gas prices are expensive. So there you go. Let's give the Dashers the gas coupons so that they can actually afford paying for gas, as one of the examples.
I love that. I mean, I've used DoorDash all over the US and abroad. Like, it's so easy, especially when you're staying, abroad and you want to stock your hotel refrigerator. It's so expensive just to buy it from the hotel. So I'll just hit the DoorDash up and have them deliver something from the local convenience store. So much cheaper to do it that way, more convenient.
Yeah. Well, and everybody's bought into the customer feedback there, and that it has a lot of value.
Very cool. Well, Alyona, when you think about helping brands make that shift, what's the first player tip that you share and even influence the brands that you work with on how to do this really well?
Well, my first tip is to stop thinking about customer feedback as one metric, whether it's NPS or CSAT or customer effort. It's really about all of this unstructured feedback that has answers to very much key questions. Why are people leaving? Why are they recommending? Why are they spending more? And so seek out as much as you can this unstructured feedback. Shorten your survey so that people can actually have the time to share more, because this is where we're no longer we need those 20 questions, multiple rating scores. We used to do those because apparently text was hard to analyze. Well, not anymore.
Yeah, you're so spot on there. One of the key principles that my customer experience team at Aaron's that we really focused on was we spent 99% of our time when we were logged into a dashboard in the unstructured feedback, in that customer feedback. Because our principle was we're going to build for our customers by our customers. And the experience isn't going to transform based on the scores. It's going to transform based on how do we continuously meet and exceed consumer feedback, our customer feedback? What are they telling us? Where are the frictions? And then how do we influence our organization to prioritize those frictions when we aren't meeting them? Right? That's such a great player tip. What's player tip number 2?
Second one is democratizing the feedback and the insights. So make sure that it reaches as many people as you can. And if you're too afraid of change, find a friendly one department that you could start with. And then how can you deliver this feedback to them? The most advanced way would be using the modern data stack, where all of the feedback and all of the analysis gets centralized in a data warehouse. And then it could be routed into various tools for taking action, dashboarding, and so on. But you don't have to go all that way. You can start small.
Yeah, I love that principle of starting small, right? Because it's one of those things where you want to be able to deliver quick wins. I think too often we see customer experience as this like large transformation project or program when really it's the system, right? And as you're building a system over time, you start small, you develop quick wins, you start to build. To your point, what I also loved is the skill set within your organization, not only just to understand the feedback, but then what do you actually do with it? How do you action it? I think that's a lot of times CX leaders, we just feel like everyone's going to know what to do with it. And I loved what you said earlier on. Not everyone has that skill set. And so how do you also enable them on what to do with it?
Yeah, education is part of that democratization of insights as well. Teaching people. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Alyona, what's the third player tip? How are you helping brands just kind of make this shift?
Well, the third one is automation, and a thematic we're all about automating discovery of themes and sub-themes and the analysis, as well as automating the reporting. If you're still manually analyzing and tagging and creating code frames, creating rules for how, if you see this word near that word, people don't do that anymore. Things have moved on in the AI space, and there's a lot more automation that can make your life easier and give you the time to focus on the other two tips that I mentioned.
Yeah, I think that's so important, right? Because I think if you think about kind of this traditional way that text analytics and themes have been developed, to your point, it is very manual to go in. I mean, that was one of the things that my team hated to do was
Who doesn't? Yeah.
right, and then like that manual QA of everything. And so to your point, if you think about consumer behavior, it's not slowing down, it's only accelerating. And so there's going to be new topics and themes that should be, evolving every single week, if not daily. And to your point, like if you don't have automation in place, you're not going to be able to keep pace with your customer.
Yeah, even the most stable industries, things change for them as well. Look at the whole automotive industry or airlines. People's expectations change as well. So what we do is we would send you an email and saying, hey, these are the new themes that are popping up in your feed. Do you want to add them into your analysis and see how they've been trending over the past few months?
And I'm curious, like when you send them that, like are they kind of shocked of, wow, these are the new themes? Or
I
is
would
it
say grateful because I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. Where were you when I needed you for this?
It was right there in your presentation saying, hey.
Alyona, this has been great. This has been very tactical, which I love. Just the tactical player tips, really, on how to advance your CX strategy. If any of our listeners want to dive in deeper with you on this specific topic, how can they get in touch with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I just crossed my 10,000 followers
Amazing
threshold. I love sharing both kind of the insights that I learned along the way, but also part of my journey as a woman entrepreneur with a science and research background. in AI. I'm one of those people who've been doing it for over 20 years since before it became cool. You're also welcome to go to our website, getthematic.com, and just request a demo and see how this automation that I was talking about might work on your data.
Yeah, I would say, look, you don't gain that many followers by putting out crap content. So I love following you. I learn when you start to post and you start to post about new things happening and new themes that you're seeing. And I love your journey, by the way. It's been an incredible journey for you. It's not been an easy one, but you've been incredible. So thank you for all the contributions you've made to the industry and come back to the hot seat soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's really good to hear. Thank you.
Cheers.